Lance, we've really asked you about the vibe around the program really every week, the vibe around the program every week. And I'm just wondering, now you got votes in both polls.
I'm sorry, say that again.
So we've asked you about the vibe around the program practically every week. I'm just wondering. Are you hearing?
Yeah, I'm all right, just a little bit. There we go. Go ahead. Vibe. I was like, vibe.
Yeah,
Okay. I was like,
you got votes in both polls right now. Just how do you feel seeing that?
yeah, it's nice to see that, our early start's been, being recognized for, the guys' efforts. But, shortly after that happens, you have to just keep your head down and stay focused on what you got to get done and get better at. And, but, there's other parts of the building that have to make sure we utilize that recruiting and recognize the progress that we've made and make sure, that recruits and things are utilizing that as well. Our guys have, I think, have handled it and understood from really a year ago. We talked about things that as things started to change, they're going to see that though the approach and expectations are going to stay consistent. And I think that's one thing to be, to be a consistent progressive program is that you have to keep your expectations and your work ethic and your attention to detail. All those things need to stay the same. And we've talked about it as a staff on Sunday that it's nice to be 3-0, but it's only as good as what we're going to do this week as well. And staying locked into the small things and the expectations of our players on and off the field have to remain consistent. And that's what we plan to do.
Did the message change at all of the team this week, or is it the same as last week?
It's been pretty consistent. Obviously, we're playing a good football team that's well coached, and they're playing with a lot of confidence. And again, they haven't lost a game, and it's a team that, though a new coaching staff, a lot of those same players, got after us last year at their place. So that should be another reason we should have good focus. It's great to be back home after a couple on the road, and I think it's important that we have a good crowd, and hopefully have a good crowd for a lot of different reasons. But I think we have a chance now to create some energy and a home field advantage. And I think those are the things that hopefully as it progresses excites them, but at the same time keeps them grounded on how to go about it. And I think, again, the basis of your question is how does this program holistically from top all the way through handle success? And I think we're doing a good job, but we got to make sure it's easy to get distracted, but I think once they're in this building, they've done a good job.
I know you're a 1 week at a time, play who's in front of you type of guy. Did you allow yourself to think about the way the schedule set up, think about what 3-0 coming home for your next home game would look like or feel like?
Look ahead. I think when you look at the spring and summer and you looked at some things, you want to feel that again, when we talked at the beginning in here, we talked about, well, okay, we're better, but how much better? How does it compare to everybody else getting better? You look at it and you end the season with somebody you play second game of the year, and you're hoping you can go on the road and play well. But yeah, then you're, then for the second consecutive year, you're playing a group of 5 school that's in the top 25 preseason and high expectations. So, I don't sit there and play prediction games or what's our win total or where we're thinking we're hoping. But, after the West Virginia game, do you feel good about where the team's at handling different circumstances? You want to feel that you can go down and play well and play. But again, much like West Virginia, when all of a sudden you're down 2 scores pretty quickly, you've got to try to just get back to where it needs to be. Now we're sitting in a spot that this program hasn't seen in a long time, but back to the original statement before your question is, if we spend a lot of time, guys, worrying about that, we're never going to keep moving to our fullest potential. So I'm very proud of these guys. I'm very proud of our staff. I'm all those things, but I don't walk up down the hall and tell them how proud I am every minute. That's probably a fault of mine, maybe, but I don't know. So.
You brought up the 2-score thing, and I wonder, how do you address that? What you obviously can't keep starting that way, right?
Right, but it's different reasons. I mean, there's some things that we've got to start better, probably on the defensive side, where we've given up the points. I credit the part that we get it figured out a little bit. We play a little more confident. We got to come out and play a little more confidently, maybe aggressively early. But again, it's important for us to get off to good offensive starts too, so we can 3 and out and punting the ball. And there's really we need to start better. There's no doubt about it, because one of these times you're not going to rebound from it. You can't live that way all the time. So,
I also wanted to ask you, consistency, obviously a big part of what you're about, what you've been about at past stops, all of that. Is there one area of being consistent here in your 18 months that you're most proud of, or you've seen that maybe has led to where you guys are today?
That'd probably be good for probably somebody other than myself, maybe, because we just kind of do it. I'd still say that, to that point of win or lose, I think when we walked in, the expectations and of what we do and how we run practice, and even so, that is kind of been there. In fact, we continue to challenge and find ways, but when you're not, I've always said this, is that you're not at someone else's program in season or to watch what they do. So, I've just 16 years being a head coach now. It's like you kind of do it in there. That doesn't mean we don't tweak it and look at it and talk about it, but we look at our schedules every day and find ways that we'd make small adjustments. But I go back to the opening statement sometimes with our players of what they were asking for, and I think that continuity of those things has helped us. I think our staff alignment has helped us in this early part. And I also think the time that we've been able to get with our players now for over a year has definitely helped.
Obviously, 3 games in, quarter of the way through the season. What are some of the things that have impressed you most about what you've seen from your team so far?
Again, defensively, I'd say our depth in some areas, that we thought we had, and to be able to, maybe not as much in some areas as others, but play a lot of guys and do some things there, and I think that'll continue to pay dividends as we move through the season. But probably most importantly, offensively, starting up front, just how I think how consistent and well we've played. I think what we've been able to do offensively and the variety of what we do has taken some of the pressure off our offensive linemen. And, of course, the play of Jalen has been outstanding. And then you take everyone else around that I haven't mentioned, 11 guys catching passes, the multiple guys that are carrying the ball. Kind of back to almost the schedule question is like, yeah, you don't spend a lot of time worrying about where your players are so-called ranked in conference or nationally, and I don't know if we'll ever, hopefully we'll earn our way there. But we've got a collection of guys that can be very productive in what we're doing, and it's starting to show. And I think others will have opportunities as we progress, and that's what I really like. I showed our players and really the whole team a Monday morning staff meeting, the participation sheet that you get in the recap. Okay, you look at our opponent's participation versus how many players we're playing. You're kind of looking at, because you may have noticed it as well. We got a lot of guys that are getting on the field, and there's some of them are hungry to get on the field more. But I'm glad, because to build a program for the long haul is something that you want to be able to get guys on the field. Like I've always said about our practice model and things like that is, you build confidence, you build depth, you help morale. And those are the things I think when I kind of show maybe a little different, and it's starting to help us, and it's shown itself this far, this early in the season.
Obviously, there's the 4-game redshirt rule, and you may have mentioned it there with the guys playing.
Yeah.
I guess, how do you approach that when you have
Well,
a game like
there's,
this?
we kind of look at it. There's a few that are kind of targeted that way. There could be a couple more. Again, it's kind of like the situation with Jalen, a year ago. If it gets to that, some guys need, if we have that discussion, it's kind of a more down the road angle, because if you don't know what's going to happen injury-wise or something that forces you to play. So, but there hopefully will be opportunities for players, maybe younger players, as they continue progressing through. I'm using that word a lot today, but getting through the season, that maybe that last third of the season they get a chance to play on special teams or rotate in. So you try to spread that out of where we're going to use some guys, but we didn't bring in a ton of true freshmen. So some guys have used years already. So it's kind of it's still up in the air on a few.
You mentioned the defensive depth earlier. Mm-hmm. At this point in the season, how important is that in terms of just keeping guys fresh as you get into playing kind of more throughout the season?
It is, and some of our snap counts we looked at, sometimes, it could be a weather delay and then another guy goes back out. Somebody might have missed a rotation, but, you've been off for an hour, so that guy's, he's fresh, but it's helping us. It's helping us with reps and confidence when guys are banged up or unfortunately will be, or in wear and tear. I'm just watching our guys move around. I thought they moved pretty well today. Talking to a couple yesterday, they talked about that their bodies feel a lot better than they did a year ago at this time. Talking with Matt Gildersleeve about certain things. He's talking about some of our younger players or newer players on the roster, and that that we have, he has the data that'll show that we have guys that have, are gaining strength during the season, which isn't common. And really about, some of the ways we do some things. So if a guy's getting stronger, understanding the scheme better, he'll have a chance to help this team down the road as well. And again, all those things besides some of the guys that we've been able to get on the field early, hopefully pays dividends as well.
3 straight home games isn't something that happens very often. What are kind of the pros and cons of having a legitimate homestand?
Yeah, I'd have to think back of last time I've gone through one of those, other than, well, probably the best I've ever is that when I was coaching Division III, we got able to get like 4 home games in a row in the playoffs, and if it was a last home game of the season, you get 5 at home, and it can really help you because of routine. It can help you, obviously, some of you in the room that travel with, as well, you know what that's like, getting home after midnight many times. So I think that's going to help us that way. But again, home games can be distracted in other ways, so you have to balance it. I'm excited because, again, to stand here and where we're at with 3 wins and 3 home games in a row, and I just know in my year and a half or wherever we're at now of being here, listening to our fans, the loyal fans have been waiting for something, starving for something, of being successful. Hopefully it's meshing at the right time, that we have 3 weeks of great crowds, and great crowds that can be beneficial to help this program take another step.
What are your thoughts on the rushing defense so far, and what are your thoughts on what Duke's going to bring in this week?
Duke, well, first of all, we're getting better run defense. I think we play a little more aggressively than we did up front this last week. I thought we did a good job of containing that run game. they had some dynamic players on that Houston roster, and I thought all in all they're bigger playmakers. Especially after those first couple of series, we really didn't. We slowed it down enough. I always say work in progress, because sometimes, again, stats, points allowed in today's college football world can get really skewed in different ways, and if you get hung up on those, you might drive yourself crazy. But we definitely played better in that front seven. Duke, I said schematically, they're very well coached. Their quarterback has a great understanding of where to go with the ball. He's very accurate. Like I said, I don't know where he's 73% of his. They've went on the road and beat a Northwestern team that just come off another win, a big win against Nebraska, and things like that. You can see on both sides of the ball that they're executing with confidence. Very, I say similar. A lot of those guys were on the field last year. They added a couple guys to the defensive secondary for sure, and backs run hard. Okay, they understand how they're again within the scheme in the running game, and they run downhill and they're physical. We got some playmakers again on the outside that, if they get the ball in space, can make things happen, and again the challenge will be there.
On Duke, does it help your focus? Does it help your team stay locked in, knowing that they are unbeaten, and it's obviously another tough test?
I would sure hope so, and motivate things. I'd also hope that we're grounded enough to know that we're nowhere near a point where we're going to show up and roll it out and think it's going to take care of itself. But that's our responsibility also during the week to prepare them in those ways that and make sure that not just physically, mentally, we're ready to go. But I think it adds to excitement, of course, that 2-3-0 teams now. We talk about if it's a big game or important game, it's you get a chance to be in these, and I always tell them is that the reason why it gets to be a bigger game now is because you're making it so by what your past performance did, and if you enjoy that and thrive on that, you got to make sure you're ready to go again.
I also wanted to ask you, I know you're not watching Saturday pregame shows and paying attention to all that stuff, but you have to be aware. I mean, there's a lot of attention on the program, on you. Are you comfortable with that? Do you enjoy that Kansas and Lance Leipold are names that are being talked about all over the place right now?
Wait till they see their ratings after I'm really proud that the program is getting its due recognition, and our players are for their efforts. That's what's important. It isn't a player. It's not Lance Leipold. It's a program and a staff that has worked extremely hard since we arrived. It's a group of players that have bought in and continue. All those things I'm excited for, and for us to get our little, time nationally is good. It's all the things we've kind of tried to touch on through things. It's good for our current players. It's good for future players. It's good for this university and our community. I just, no, but we're not DVRing it and running it back and forth. Okay, but it's just like everything else. If you get a taste, hopefully you're going to do that we can continue to build excitement and consistent excitement.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you. Have a great rest of the week.